Welcome to Book Talks with two sisters writing and publishing, where our amazing authors share insights, inspiration, and instruction on how you can open a new chapter in your life to live bigger, better, and bolder. I'm so proud to introduce one of our authors, Dr. Herman Williams, who has an amazing story of survival, perseverance, and influence, because he shares his story on the pages of this awesome book, Clear: Living the Life You Didn't Dream of, to teach people how to recover from a catastrophic event, as well as reinvent themselves and contribute in a positive manner to the rest of the world. Herman, I want to welcome you today to Book Talks.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor to be on the show with you. And, you know, maybe we should start by telling the audience how we met.
Yes, let's do that.
It was like a total virtual experience, right? The first time I ever met someone on LinkedIn who you and I just we had the same vision about the book and the same spirituality, and we connected, and we hadn't even met in person.
No.
We agreed to write this book together. Mm-hmm. And I am totally proud to say that you are my ghostwriter, and that we sat and you listened to many, many hours of my story. And my best friend, the most incredible compliment to you as a ghostwriter is, as he read it, he said, "Herman, this is so incredible. This is your voice speaking." So
wow,
it's been awesome to work with you and Catherine and Two Sisters Publishing, and it's just been a great relationship and friendship. So I'm really honored to be continuing with you on this journey.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. So the term is typically ghostwriter. I like to say angel writer, because that was such an amazing testimony. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. But
Yes.
There's so many directions we can go today, and I definitely want to talk about your story, the book, and the impact that it's having on people. But I want to also talk about, for anybody out there who's looking to write a book and knows they need help. Herman had written a portion of his book himself, very academic writing style. He knew that in order to be engaging, it needed to be energized a little bit. And so we connected, and it's very, very important that if you work with somebody who is going to help you write a book, that they're able to capture your voice and they also see your vision. So Herman, can you talk about the importance of that and how, just share our process of how we made this happen?
Yeah, so I mean, the beauty about Two Sisters is that you offered me several alternatives, and I think we even tried coaching. Mm-hmm. You said, "Look, let me coach you because you've already written part of it." And it was really me coming to the realization. I tell people, I just didn't want to write this book. I
to be perfectly honest,
I started this book in 2000, and we finally got it published in 2017. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I realized that two things. One is you have to have a stream of consciousness. So as the reader is reading, they're following this trail, this story. And if you write something and then you go away from it for 5 months and you go back, you may feel different. You may be in a different mood. And so I've realized that I couldn't sit down and write it. So I was writing it in these clumps of time, and I'd even have different ideas. And I go, that was kind of good, but now I feel differently. So I think you have to decide, do you want to write it? And I decided no.
Uh-huh.
The tears are also, I recognize that, as you mentioned, that I was really, I've written and published scientific articles, but they weren't the kind of articles like, I woke up in the morning and the dew on the grass slowly dripped down the blade. I was writing, very scientifically oriented, very what I considered a boring style for someone who wanted to publish an autobiography. So all of this pointed to the fact that I needed some assistance. And so those are the things you have to ask yourself as a writer. And some people are like, no, I want to write this. Mm-hmm. And some people will come and say, I've already written it. I just need someone to edit it. And I have to also say to your audience that you brought ideas that I hadn't thought about. As an example, the end of the book is really a workbook. That was your idea, is that Herman, let's don't just give them the story, but let's give them an opportunity to work through their own issues and use principles from the book, which is a great way to hardwire the concept. So that was your idea. I thought, and so many people have told me how much they appreciated that.
Awesome.
So these are the kinds of things that you can get if you have an angel writer or somebody to critique and be a part of the process, which many publishers are not. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a beautiful distinction that you might not bring out yourself, but I do want to bring out as part of our experience.
Thank you. Herman, I call that creative synergy. Because you're brilliant by yourself, I have my talents, but then when two people come together for the common goal of creating something, there's two brains, and all that energy just creates this third entity of genius, creativity, ideas, and that's how books are born, because it's literally a team effort, and it's really a magical experience. It's really amazing. It's indescribably fulfilling. So Herman, I want to go back to where the book starts. And the book starts on a day that literally changed your life. Can you take us there?
Well, I think let me just build up to that a little bit. The book acknowledges my contribution to not doing everything I could to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor. I knew it when I was in high school, and so everything was focused on that. But I ran into life's challenges, and I made some choices that ultimately led to me not getting into medical school. And part of that success had to do with me acknowledging my contribution to that and the chip I had on my shoulder about some of the micro racist experiences that I had, and some of the excuses that I ended up making for myself for why I didn't want to do what it took to get in. And once I realized what I had to do, I just had to make a decision about whether I was going to do it. And I decided to do that. So I put everything into place. I got a mentor. I went back. I did all my training again, got into medical school. I chose a very complex and difficult specialty to get in. I was able to overcome the odds and get into orthopedics. And my final block in my dream to be an orthopedic surgeon and to be part of the team for the LA Lakers was to get into a sports medicine fellowship at the Curlin Joe Clinic in Los Angeles, California. And I had even laid that foundation because I had rotated through their hospital with Dr. Clarence Shields, who was also an African American. So I had a role model. I had an image. I had a connection. He was the doctor for the LA Rams. And it was all there for me within reach. One day I got up to play basketball with a group of doctors, and I had a cardiac arrest, and all those dreams just poof, went up in just a millisecond, gone.
So you were 31, right?
I was 31.
31 years old. You were a resident in Seattle, and you were engaged to Jeannie, who's now your wife, and you
Who
were
actually played a key role in identifying the fact that it passed out on the sidelines. Otherwise, those guys would still be playing today. They would not have noticed that I had passed out. So yeah, Jeannie that day, she was a scorekeeper, and she noticed that I wasn't feeling well. I checked myself out of the game, and I sat down and she looked over and I had passed out.
and she screamed. And thankfully, you were playing ball with doctors, and they all came and performed CPR on you. Well, someone called 911,
Right.
And the EMTs came, and their defibrillator didn't work.
They came, and the first defibrillator that they had did not work.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to resume CPR until the fire department got there, and they had another defibrillator which finally worked, and they were able to bring me back to life after a very long time. And, you know, my friends would later tell me, I don't know why we kept going, because we didn't think you were going to make it anyway, but, you know, you just keep doing it. And so they kept doing CPR.
Herman, can you talk about the odds, the statistics on having a cardiac arrest outside of a hospital and the survival rate without brain damage?
Brain damage, yeah. So the odds of surviving a cardiac arrest in the hospital is like 20%. The odds of surviving a cardiac arrest outside the hospital is like 10%. And it's because people don't know CPR or are unwilling to do CPR. And now those statistics are from, I pulled them from 2015, but this was in, 1991. And it just happens that, like you said, I was with 4 anesthesiologists and 5 neurosurgery residents. So, I mean, those guys are the best at doing CPR. So I had absolutely probably the best skilled people doing it at that time. And that's probably why I'm here today.
Amazing. That is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
However, it was not an easy road. So can you talk about the grueling recovery experience that you had?
It wasn't an easy road. It was complicated by the fact that while I was in the hospital, I was approached by a cardiologist who said, hey, we've got this new technology. It's like a salesman. We've got this new technology. And it shock you. It actually is implantable. We put it in your chest. We have it patched and sewn onto your heart. It'll detect abnormal arrhythmias, and it'll shock you back into a rhythm. You'll never have to depend on EMTs ever again. How does it sound, I'm in sales now, so I can just see myself thinking, wow, that sounds pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
And I'm saying to him, but wouldn't that hurt? And he goes, no. It'll just feels like a really strong hiccup. That's what he told me. And it turns out I got the surgery, I got the defibrillator implanted after being in the hospital with complications from esophagitis and I had some infections, both pre-op and post-op. And the pre-op infection was from, they put in lines while I was on the basketball floor, of course, non-sterile. So I had an infection from that, and then I had a post-op infection, and then I had inflammation of my esophagus, and I lost 35 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. But I finally got out. And then about 2 months later, I got my first shock. And it was not a strong hiccup. It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced, and was awake. Now that's the other thing. Most people, when they have a rapid heart rate that's fast enough, like the one that would cause an arrest, they pass out. But because my body could tolerate a very rapid rhythm, I was awake for all of my shocks. So Elizabeth, for the first 6 months of having my device, also because they didn't know what was the right medication dosage. So you start low and you ratchet it up until it prevents an arrhythmia. Well, 6 months later, I had gotten over 40 shocks, which is just, I mean, it's incompatible with life. If somebody's getting that many shocks, the technology is not, the shock is the treatment, not the medication, which is supposed to be the opposite. The medication is the treatment and the shock is a backup if everything fails. So it took us 6 months to finally find the right medication where I could control my shocks or my arrhythmia to the point where I wasn't getting shocked once a month. It was very difficult. Obviously, it was just a terrible toll on my wife and I. We were very depressed. You know, both of us in our own way had gone through post-traumatic stress. I to the point where I was getting therapy for it. And, you know, the other thing that people know is the caregiver experiences everything that the person with the disease has. So every time I got shocked, she's looking at me terrified. So she's terrified. So she was traumatized. And so that's just something important for people to understand, is that really that caregiver experiences almost the same thing that you're going through. And so it was a rough way to go for a while. But I finally refused to give up. I just said, you know, I just did not believe I was put on this earth to accomplish all this stuff for it to just end.
So you had been preparing your whole life through all your academic rigors to get to a point where you were on the verge of living your dream as an orthopedic surgeon. Then, because of the defibrillator and the risk of a jolt during the surgery, you could not pursue becoming the surgeon. So you had to reinvent yourself and say, okay, now what? So please take us there and tell us how you proceeded, because that helped a lot of people who are at a position where they really have to start at square one after planning and preparing, and then they can't do it.
Right. I took an inventory of all the skills that I had gathered over the years. And fortunately, I even took a year off and got a master's in public health. So I had lots of skills that I thought would be useful in some other capacity. And it, you know, it's just like, it really, for me, has been one door closes and another door opens. And I looked around to see what I could do. And the door that was open that was the time when they were trying to get physicians into healthcare consulting. And the whole consulting profession was being done by accountants and people who were auditing hospitals who had no clinical experience. And so I was one of the first physicians in Arthur Andersen, which no longer is a company. Actually, it went under after I left, actually. But Arthur Andersen was a leading healthcare consulting company, and they needed doctors to be able to work with hospitals and understand the needs of medical staff and patients, et cetera, et cetera. So it was perfect timing. So I went back, got an MBA so I could really understand business, because I felt like that was one of the holes in my inventory. I got that, and then I started marketing myself as a healthcare consultant. And then one of my clients asked me one day, hey, can you help us write a job description for a chief medical officer? And I, as a joke, I said, what, I'm good enough? They said, you're kidding me. Would you even consider that? And I said, yes. And the rest is history.
Wow.
My first job as a chief medical officer in 2000.
Wow.
And literally ever since then, I've just expanded my career with an increased number of hospitals. I started out with one, and my highest number of hospitals was 25 in 13 states across the country. And then here's the thing. You look back and you think about that tiny little goal to be a doctor for one team. And really, I'm not belittling that, but my reasons were very superficial and were very altruistic in the terms of status. It wasn't because I was trying to, better the profession of, healthcare to athletes. I wanted that status. And I later, as I reflected on it, I said, that was a very superficial goal. But now I had an opportunity to impact the healthcare across 13 states in the United States, millions of people, and impact healthcare and really do something that I thought had so much more meaning. And that's why the book is, it's living the dream you never, living the life you never dreamed of.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, who could at high school say, God, I want to be a doctor over all of the hospitals,
Right.
And so it just started out as a seed, but grew into something so much more beautiful and so much more broad ranging.
So your life has become very robust and fulfilling and impactful. And along the way, you and Jeannie also had a son, Cole.
A beautiful son, yes.
Yes, he's a wonderful young man. And you also created something out of all of this called the kindness scale.
Yes.
Herman, can you talk about what is the kindness scale? Because there is a whole section in the book about it and how people can implement it to create more fulfilling lives.
So the kindness scale was inspired by a friend of mine who I said, really, I've learned to understand that compassion to me is the key to life, because people like kind people, but really I think what it is, people like compassionate people. And it just exudes from compassion. And someone said, yeah, I get the whole compassion thing, but I don't understand how to operationalize it. Can you tell me more? And yeah, let me see if I can actually build a scale where the first level in the kindness scale, to me, Elizabeth, is the most basic level of compassion. And that's a smile. Because a smile is total nonverbal communication, non-committal. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything to anybody. If you're shy, all you have to do is smile. And I challenge people to try it, because when you smile at someone smiles back at you. 9 out of 10 times, right? That one person will look at you like, what are you looking at me for? You might get that, but I find most people will smile at you. And I love to smile at kids, because, you smile at them and they smile back, and then you wave and they wave. And I probably should have been a pediatric orthopedic surgeon because I love kids so much, but that's the most basic gesture. That's level 1 in the kindness scale. The next level is doing something, an action, opening a door, helping someone with their luggage, to put in a storage bin. I do a lot of traveling, so a lot of my explanation are in doing things where you're out and about with people. And I love to tell the story about these moms, and you probably know what I mean because you're a mom, where you see these moms with a kid and a backpack and a stroller and, luggage, and they're just walking and everybody's looking at them, Like, somebody help this mother. So, of course, the first thing I do is give me the baby. You find your seat. No, but I used to say, look, let me put your luggage up for you. Let me help you get settled. And so that's sort of the level 2. That's a little bit more energy. Level 3 is doing something, maybe using your specialty, your expertise, your profession to help someone. So what I do is when someone has a person or a family member, friend in the hospital, I say, let me call the hospital and talk to the doctor. And when you call the team taking care of a patient and you say, this is Dr. Williams, I'm calling, all of a sudden they know, oh my God, there's a clinician on the other end. We better dot our I's, cross our T's, make sure everything's done right, because someone's going to critique what we do. And people call and they go, I don't know what you did, but everybody's running around here like I'm a The last one, high level in the kindness scale. I'll give you a couple examples. One, of course, is CPR. But my wife told me about a friend of hers was in her Bible study class, and she said, I want everybody to know I'm not going to be here next week because I've got surgery. And they go, surgery? What's going on? And she goes, well, I'm donating one of my kidneys to someone, and I don't even know who it is, but it turns out we're a perfect match. And I said, what? I get donating a kidney to a relative, to a friend, but to someone you don't know, what could be a higher gesture of kindness? I mean, clearly you only need one, but what happens if something happens to that one you have? So,
gosh.
To me, that is the highest level of kindness. And so I put that in a scale format so people could actually get an understanding of what is it like to operationalize the kindness scale.
Beautiful, beautiful. So here's the beautiful thing as well, that we give what we receive, what we give, we reap what we sow. You commit all these wonderful acts of kindness all the time, and then you had a second cardiac incident in an airport, and someone performed something that was like 5-star kindness scale act. Right? Can you tell us that story?
Walk into the Delta Crown Club, because I travel all the time, minding my own business. But I did what I preach. And I see this gentleman sitting at the table, and I said, good morning, how are you? He said, I'm fine. And the last thing I heard from him was, are you okay? And it turned out that I passed out. I had a rapid rhythm, passed out, and went into cardiac arrest. And this man got up and started CPR immediately while others looked around. And actually there was another woman who caught me, and I'm on a blood thinner. If she hadn't caught me, I probably would have died from a cerebral hemorrhage, because I was standing up and there was nothing, I couldn't have broken my fall, but she caught me. So that was number one. And then the two of them worked together while he performed CPR. And here's the funny thing of how all of this just, it just brings tears to my eyes when I think about it. This woman, several months earlier, because she travels, her husband had a heart attack and died. And she felt so bad that she was not there when he needed her. And I told her later, I would tell her, you just, you can't blame yourself for something like that. But she told me, she said, Herman, when I sat there with your head in my arms and I saw your eyes roll up in your head, all I could think of is, I'm going to be here for you. And if this is your last breath, you're not going to be here alone.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. And actually they did end up, obviously, because I'm here talking to you, they did resuscitate me. And I think for her, it gave her some closure that she was there for someone else, even though she couldn't have been there for her husband. And she was part of bringing me back to life. So, just giving back, so like you said, it's just, you give and you get back in triplicate,
So there's another amazing angle to this story in this age of anti-racism and Black Lives Matter. And it's really a beautiful testament to the human spirit being blind to all the things that divide us. Because the gentleman who performed CPR on you was white, is white.
Right.
And so that is the ultimate act of kindness. And race played no role in it. You were another human being, and he was helping save your life. He saved your life.
He said I had to act within milliseconds. I didn't have time to think, well, this is a Black guy. I mean, does he have a disease or, is he a militant or, but Elizabeth, I have to think that what if I had walked in there with an attitude? He said good morning, and I looked at him like, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? You never know the person you smile at or the person you say hello to or the person you open the door for might be that person who ends up giving you CPR.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just, I treat everybody with the same level of kindness and respect, no matter what the race is, I don't care. I just start out with the benefit of the doubt. And I look at all this. As a matter of fact, I wrote a piece called What to Say, What to Do. I published in LinkedIn, which talked about that with all of this going on, the first thing that I thought about doing was to call him and tell him how much I appreciated what he did. And with all of this going on, the fact that he, looked beyond all of that and was saving a human being.
Yes.
Very beautiful point you're making.
I think that's the answer to racism and any hatred toward any group based on religion, nationality, or anything like that. I think it's to think, what if I need help? What if one of my loved ones needs help? And this is the only person who can help us.
Yeah.
Would I still hate them?
Yeah.
When you think of it like that, it just makes everything dissolve. It brings it back to the core that we are all one, we're all human, and we all deserve equality, justice, love, peace, and freedom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's another thing to think about, because another friend of mine, a white friend of mine, he said, Herman, where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's hard work. Because imagine if you're benefiting from the system that's in place, it's hard work to say, you know what, I'm going to go out of my way to make sure everybody gets the same benefits and privilege that I have. So it's hard. And that's why I told him, I said, sometimes it's as fundamental as a smile. Because what a smile says to the person you're smiling at is, I see you. You're important enough for me to acknowledge you. And me, as a Black male, and many other people of color, we are not seen. We feel like we're invisible. And so it's a beautiful first step is to just smile and say, I see you and I harbor goodness for you.
That's beautiful. That is wonderful. So can you talk a little bit more about why you wanted to put this into a book specifically and how it plays into you speaking on a national scale and also serving as a consultant for companies to utilize some of the theories and programs that you have?
Every time I told my story, people were like, oh my God, you've got to write a book about it, because there's so many twists and it's got humor, and it resonates so well on so many levels. And everybody is dealing with something. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for me to uplift an audience and take them through my journey, because it's a human journey. Even though there are some points in it that are related to race, for the most part, it's a human journey about fear and how the fear in life, the fear of pain, the fear of getting shocked, the fear of not being successful, all the things that we all share, and how I was able to overcome that and just, downplay it, and then to try and give back. To me, just the perfect thing to talk about.
I love that. That's beautiful. Speaking of talking, you're a doctor, you're an executive, and you're sitting in a music studio. So can you please, in case that's creating any kind of disconnect for the viewers, can you explain why you're sitting at a keyboard?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought for a long time that I was going to be a musician, as music was going to be my profession. And then I had to make a clear decision if I was going to go medicine or if I was going to go try to go to Juilliard. Actually, I had a scholarship of School of Music in New York, and I got a scholarship. I had to decide if I was going to go to a school where I thought I had a better chance of getting into medicine or my music, and I chose medicine.
Wow.
But my music with all the whole COVID thing, because I can't leave the house.
Oh, right.
I'm kind of at risk. So I've been making a lot of music, and that's why I'm here in the studio.
Oh, do you want to play something?
No, I'm not prepared, and I'm not set up for it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome.
I sent you my latest recordings for
I can't wait to listen to it. I know. That's just awesome. I just love that you have such a robust and fulfilling life. You have your family life. You have your friends. You have when COVID is not here, you play golf and you travel and you go to really cool conferences and you vacation, and you're living life to the fullest, and you're showing other people how to do the same. And you are doing that on the pages of your book. And you can pick up this book on Amazon.com in an ebook, paperback, or hardcover. And Herman is an amazing speaker. Oh my gosh, I've heard him speak, and he's just captivating because he tells his stories. You only heard the tip of the iceberg today because he's got all kinds of stories about growing up in Los Angeles and attending Amherst College in Massachusetts and his militant student activist era. And then it's fascinating, and the lessons learned, and then going to Harvard to get his master's in public health, and then pursuing all that he's done. And the mentors who've helped him along the way have been instrumental. So Herman, your life is just extraordinary and a beautiful example to people on how to live life to the fullest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you're in my life and I'm in yours, because it's just a beautiful thing to come together and understand the message. And you were so crucial in that final project that turned out to be the book. So
thank you.
I'd probably still be trying to figure out how
that would make it 20 years, right?
Exactly. It would have been 20 years exactly.
All right. Well, Herman, thank you so much for joining us here on Book Talks.
My honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I want to thank you for watching Book Talks today, where you get to meet our amazing authors who share their insights, instructions, inspiration on how you can open a new chapter in your life to live bigger, better, and bolder. We'll see you for the next episode of Book Talks. Be well.